listening to The Bridge.
You know, I wanted to move on a little bit because in the United States, there is still a, small percentage of Americans who somehow don't believe in science. But this is an article from theguardian.com, and I think that this might help some people understand the seriousness of, the reality of the climate change thing. Because you and I, we could point out that there was a flood in Italy, or there was a heat wave in Nicaragua, or whatever, right? We could look around the world and we could find individual instances of climate catastrophes, and we could say, look, there's a string of them. But actually, we don't need to, because data analysts have done that far better than you and I ever could do. And according to theguardian.com, insurance premiums in the U.S. are being rise in this article, and the percentage change in premiums that are shown here in this article are directly correlated to instances of verified climate risk where fires or flooding or tornadoes are increasing, dramatically enough that insurance companies are actually raising premiums on those specific kinds of climate-related challenges. And so those data analysts at these insurance companies have done the work of showing that it is very real and that it is striking different parts of the United States differently, and they're actually having to raise rates on things like flooding or fires, because the amount of fires and flooding in very specific regions of the United States is unequal and changing dramatically.
I remember actually this is interesting. Before I really understood as a young innocent journalism student when I was living in the United States, we actually did a piece on something very similar. It's about the Massachusetts zoning changes on these houses that are built closer to the water, and there's actually a great danger for these houses to be flooded, but then that, again, that affects the insurance price or the quotes or whatever. Like back then, when that story was first pitched to the school, I was like, what? Housing insurance? Isn't that just, something that you pay for? Isn't it something, because I wasn't a property owner, I wasn't thinking about it, I also didn't know what was going on. But apparently there was some sort of, let's say, intentional withholding of information from insurance companies so that they can sell the houses to these people at a certain price, and then they come to them with oh hey, there's going to be flooding, we just got this piece of news, which is not, true, and then they raise the insurance price on these poor homeowners, and they have to do it. They have no other choice.
Very unfortunate. I think in the United States you're required to have housing insurance if you have a mortgage with the bank, because the bank requires that their asset be insured. So that creates a necessary loop for how people must buy insurance. But what I find interesting isn't that insurance premiums are going up, because, all kinds of things are increasing in costs in the United States. What I find interesting about this article is that it's increasing unequally. Yeah. So, for example, Wyoming is experiencing much higher premiums. I'm not sure exactly why. It doesn't list which particular aspect of climate change is affecting Wyoming, but Wyoming and Louisiana are experiencing dramatically increased insurance premiums as a consequence of some climate-related issues. So, I think that goes a long way to showing that there is a very strong correlation between the probability of